Hey guys, welcome back to another project. This is Pablo from DMAR Shoe Repair in Guelph, Canada. Today we have a beautiful pair of Alden Blucher boots in brown Chrome XL leather. This is a very similar model to the Indy boots, so I thought it'd be a cool project seeing as the new Indiana Jones movie is just coming out. So today we're going to take these apart, we're going to rebuild them with new welts, leather midsoles, and some Vibram outsoles. So let's break these down and see what's on the inside. At this point, we have the boot almost disassembled. In a perfect ideal world, all these threads would pull in one go, but there was so much glue on the welt that didn't happen. But fortunately, I have these awesome mini pliers, which allow me to remove the threads more accurately. They're very grabby, but you have to remove all the threads from the welt on the boot, because when you restitch, you got to go through all the original holes. So once this is all cleaned up, we can start the re-welting process. But you got to prepare properly, or else you're going to encounter mistakes. And sometimes it means doing a little bit of extra work that maybe you weren't planned for, but that's just the cost of doing business and doing things the right way. In this area here, it's where the welt starts and finishes, so there's always an overlap of the stitches from the Goodyear welt machine. So this can always be a bit of a tricky spot because there's an abundance of threads. All right, we got all those threads out. I'm going to clean the rest of this cork and then we can start our welting process. All right guys, so we have our Alden boot here disassembled. We took off the welts, the soles, the heels, the whole shabam. So I'm going to give them a quick conditioning with Bic 4 leather conditioner, which is great for this Chrome XL oil tan leather. It won't darken it, won't sheen it up. It'll keep the natural beauty just as it is. And then from there, I'm going to use a new leather split welt. We're going to do a natural welt with a leather midsole that'll be burnished with a natural finish as well, and then a little natural heel stack. To me, it's going to make the boot, the brown Chrome XL, really pop. So for the conditioning, I'm just going to use a brush and a little bit of Bic 4. So this is the perfect time to condition because I have the welt off, so I can get all the way to the bottom of the boot. So while that dries, just going to measure my welt. And you always want to give yourself some extra room. And this is some heavy duty wax thread. I'm barely out of this roll, so I'm going to see if I can muster up just enough to do this shoe. 1, 2, 3, perfect. All right, we can see the conditioner is still pretty fresh on there, so we'll give that a few minutes to dry. We'll come back, buff that up, and then get our welting process going. I just want to hit some of the Bic 4 on the welt as well. And what this does to the welt, it just adds a little bit of a finish, like a very, very mild sheen. And then you're also putting some protective waxes as well, just so the welt isn't so dry and absorbent. Give that a few minutes and then we'll get to the welting. So this is a cobbler's floor. This is what it looks like after one pair of boots was taken apart. So it's a constant struggle where we sweep multiple times a day. And to be honest, this is probably on the cleaner side of a breakdown. Sometimes you take apart a pair of shoes or boots and it's just like a war zone on the floor. Anyways, these have dried with the Bic 4, so we're gonna hop over to our buffer, get those buffed up, and then we'll start welting. Alright, so like I explained before, we always start our welt on the inside of the boot, which is called the medial side. The outside would be the lateral side. Right around, what would you say, in between the arch and the ankle bone, just centered about there. So this is what's called a split welt. So the welt has a split, and that rides the side of the boot like so. And what we want is when this welt comes all the way around, we got to blend this and this together so that it's the same thickness as just one piece of leather. It's quite simple to do. Just got to add 2 45s. Quite simple to do when you've done it 5,000 times. Alright, so the end of this welt now is pretty much to 0. And then when I come back around, same thing here, this is going to be blended and the tip will be 0. And it should be a very smooth, flawless transition. Now this is the most time-consuming part of a rebuild, the welting process. We charge, I think, $100 or so to do a pair of boots, just the welting. And that's because of the time it takes. It's very, very time consuming. And as some of you are aware, the manufacturers, so Alden, they have a Goodyear welt machine. They can just zip their boot on the machine. It'll install the welt in seconds. But for us, we do this by hand. And one of the main reasons is we don't have the machines and we need to hit all the original holes on the upper one by one. That's going to keep the shape of the shoe. And also, if a machine were to try to re-welt this, the needles are going to not hit all the original holes and it's going to puncture the uppers. So this little groove here, the tip of my jerk needle goes in there and it lines up with the next hole of the boot. It goes through the gemming and goes through the fabric layer that Alden installs on top of their footbeds. It's just an extra protective layer to make sure the footbed doesn't separate from the gemming. You can't see the footbed or the gemming right now, so what I'm saying might not make sense. Now in terms of how hard I'm pulling, I would say like a medium strength. You want this threads to lock in place and be strong, but if you pull too tight, you're going to tighten the shoe. So we don't want to change the fit whatsoever. So it is, you know, a touch and feel thing. You got to feel the boot and the welt and the thread and make sure, you know, you're not pulling too tight or pulling not tight enough. while at the same time making sure you're going perfectly through the channel, perfectly through the existing holes. And the needle I'm using for the rewelting is called a jerk needle. It has a needle for a sewing machine that's called the McKay, which also does the Blake stitching. And then it's screwed into this section here, and it just has a wooden handle. So the tip of the hook of the needle is what grabs the thread from one side, pulls it through the other side, and locks our stitch in place. All right, so we're approaching the end of the welt here. So I'm going to mark where it's going to line up and overlap, and then I'll thin that out. That's our joint there. So I'm going to just clean that up a little bit, glue these two pieces down, and then continue the process. All right, guys, we have our new welt installed, and time to add our cork filler layer. All right, give that a few minutes to dry, then we'll hammer it down. So I just cut a little groove into the cork, so when I place this shank on top, it sits flush with the rest of the cork and there's no weird bump going on. All right, got our new leather midsole, nice and pliable. We're going to glue this on first. It's looking pretty even, and once it's sanded a little bit on the sides, I think it'll look really good. So I'm really happy with that joint right there. All right, so the project is moving along nicely. We have our welt installed, we have our leather midsole installed. Our customer has chosen the Vibram 700 in brown. This is a very durable, long-wearing sole. I would say the grip is medium, not super duper grippy, but it does last a long time, and it is also non-marking and oil resistant. And just a little quick fact about the owner of these boots. His name's Daniel, and he's a writer for Boot Spy, and he's also a writer for stridewise.com on occasion. So just want to say hi to Daniel and say thank you so much for sending in your boots and letting us work our magic on them. Also want to give a shout out to Dale from Dale's Leatherworks. He's also known as Aero Surfer LV on Instagram. Dale made me this incredible leather apron, which I've had for over a year now, and he makes all sorts of leather goods, including the best kilties that you can find for boots. So big shout out to Dale as well. He's a great guy. So I'm just going to hit these with one more coat of conditioner. So what I'm doing here is making my own leather heel bases, because this boot is so wide that even my widest heel base is too small to go on this boot. So I gotta custom make them. I'm gonna glue a couple layers together. So originally we had 3 layers of leather in our heel stack, but that was too thick, so I peeled one off. So now we're going to glue our Vibram heel onto the heel base once we get the glue all set up. And then we'll attach the heel base to the boot, finish our edging, add a little burnishing, and then this project is all wrapped up. All right guys, so I went ahead and I balanced the heels and glued them on and nailed them on. So I apologize for skipping that stage. So 2 more steps really. Just going to wet sand the sides, get them nice and smooth. Then put a little bit of color or burnishing just to make the edges pop. And I know you guys love it when I show you the boots I'm wearing. So for today's video, I was wearing a pair of Red Wings. This model is called the Rover. It's very similar to a mock toe, except it doesn't have the mock around the toe. These have kind of become like my everyday boots in the summertime because they're light. And I swapped out the stock wedge sole that it came from, and I put in a Vibram 2021 sole. These are kind of like my everyday summer boots that I've been wearing. Love them, super comfortable. Can't go wrong with a pair of Red Wings. So I got a little cup of water here for soaking my rag, and just going to wet the leather because we don't want the leather to burn on the sanding paper. So this is a little trick I've been using for a while now. All right guys, final step, just put a little bit of cream polish onto the edges and then give it a good buff, and then we are finito. Just so you guys know, it's been a long video filming this. You're only going to see the good stuff, but I think we're past 4 hours now of filming. It's not easy to have a camera pointed in your face while trying to pull off a great Resole video. So thank you guys for watching, appreciate it. All right, just give that a few minutes to dry and set up, give everything a good buff again, and then we are done. All right, guys, that is it for today. Thanks to our customer Daniel for sending in his beautiful Alden boots. We completely recrafted these with new welts, leather midsoles, Vibram 700 V-bar outsoles, Vibram heel caps, a new leather heel stack, a nice clean and condition. If you guys liked watching these videos, I would appreciate it if you hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you guys next time on the next repair video. Thanks so much.